forget that. And we'll do that little song and dance quickly again. It's loading. All right, cool. So we are live. So I've got it at 6:01 at this point to call the meeting to order. We have everybody, we've enough for a quorum. We're missing Chris, Deb, and Dan, although Chris may join us a little bit later on. Good evening, everybody. And first item on the agenda is the minutes. Catherine, as always, thank you for putting these together. Much appreciated. In looking through them, there were no edits on my end. Just one capitalization piece in here. We had JP LaRue, it's LA capital RUE, but that's minor. So I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept.
Who made the motion? Sorry, I missed that.
I did, Stu, Dave.
Okay, Dave, can I get a second?
Second.
Josh, all right. Is there any discussion or additional corrections on this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand if you're on video. Anybody opposed? And okay, no abstentions. I know Jen, you weren't there for that one, so good deal. All right, cool. Moving onward. General business. So thank you everybody who filled out the survey, and we got everybody's feedback on it. I circulated just before this meeting what the results of that were. Just so it's in the record, the selected vendor based on the feedback from everybody was Compan, who had been our second presentation. So that is not, I'm sharing that information based on what each individual committee member submitted. We are going to take an official vote to confirm that. But from a process standpoint, what I'll do is I'll ask for a motion to accept Compan and get a second. Then we'll have a brief discussion if anybody wants to make comments. And then if there aren't any, we'll go ahead and vote. So could I get a motion to accept Compan as the vendor for the Tiverton Town Farm playground and fitness area? Sorry.
Stu, I'll make that motion.
All right, let's do this. I've got a motion from Dave and Catherine. I've got a second from you. That works?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Chicken. It's not.
I just went on mute.
No, that's not something I have in my office.
Yeah, no, we actually let them free today, so that's what the racket is, but I'm gonna stay on mute.
It's fine. All right, so on this, I'm not hearing any other comments. A number of you are on mute, so I'm gonna have to ask you to unmute when we do this, but all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. So we have selected Compan as our vendor. Josh, I will reach out to all three of them. Also CC you because you've been the primary contact on them in case they have questions.
Yep.
But looking forward to working with them on this project. I think my personal take on it is they looked at especially the data we provided them better than the other vendors and came back with a plan that I think will be good. But all of them, I will say that I did it based on numbers of rankings, but the feedback we got from all of you was that it was pretty close across the board. So all of them, like any one of these vendors could have done a good job, and I'm confident with who we've chosen and looking forward to moving forward with this.
Stu, can I echo that? It's just me. I just wanted to echo what you had said. I watched the presentations again. I went through the information again. All three of them were fantastic, but in the end, Compton just had, in my opinion, a little bit of an edge. But props to the other ones for stepping up, and they had great presentations.
All of them have done great things across the state. So, Josh, did you have a comment?
No, I would agree. I would agree with your comments.
Sounds good. Cool. All right. Another step forward. What I'd like to do at this particular time, and I put it in my notes to you guys, is identify, sections of this project that people can take on. And so there's kind of a balance here. You know, if there's a particular part of the project that people are feeling that they're connected to, I'm very happy to have you get involved with that portion of it. I had also gone through and kind of try to align people based on where I thought fits might be. But I am not wed to folks locking into one spot or another. The only thing that I will offer up on this is that I spoke with Rick, and I have both been in touch with a vendor to take a look at pickleball. We do have to put it through the RFP for doing the resurfacing, but I have a feeling pickleball is going to be probably a less intense process than the rest of it, just based on what the scope of the project is. So, you know, as I look at this, if somebody is on pickleball, they're going to be able to help with something else, probably relatively soon. I'll also offer that I think from a sequence on this, we may be able to get pickleball done sooner than everything else. There are things that could play into that from a timing standpoint, but because it's not as big a deal, we could potentially get that one done before we're moving on to the playground and then the fitness section, would be my thought. And fundraising has to happen throughout. The only other piece in here that what I didn't include, and David mentioned it to me, is identifying some folks to help with marketing and communications. I think that's just keeping folks updated, feeding content through the website. So in the agenda, you'll see 5 categories: pickleball, fitness area, playground, fundraising, and then the 5th one, which isn't listed here, is marketing. My kind of thought is that if it works for everybody, is just to kind of go around the horn and have folks indicate if there's something they'd be interested in doing. What do you guys think?
I'll start, Stu. I'm interested in the outdoor fitness area.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay.
I'm interested in helping with the the site work and the site prep for the most part.
Gotcha. And Adam, I'm going to align that probably just because it's a bigger piece, more on the playground side for you,
Okay.
which is kind of where I had you thought too. All right.
I'd like to get the ball rolling on the flyer for the fundraising with the brick, and then do some work as well on the fitness area. I'm just a bit bogged down with fundraising with the new school budget, so I can't do like 100% fundraising, but I definitely can be there to help.
Awesome. Cool. Perfect. Thank you, Jen. All right. Dave, what are your thoughts?
Go where you need me, Stu. I'm willing to be a phone call to meet a contractor. I know Adam's probably busy, but between the two of us, he's around town a lot. Pretty much we're a phone call away. If somebody needs to meet somebody down there for something, I can get down there.
Yeah, for sure. I can work in the same capacity still. If I'm available and you need to make a phone call to meet somebody over there, I can do that.
Cool. Yeah, and I think the two of you actually, in different ways, you can help in different places, and the playground being probably the biggest piece of that. Having you both on, that's not a bad deal at all. So I'd be psyched with that. Okay, cool. Very cool. Josh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say playground, fitness park, and pickleball. All 3. I wouldn't even mind managing the project along the process if need be. I'm also I work remote, so fairly flexible. And obviously my landscape architectural background is fairly helpful.
Cool. All right, so why don't we do this? I mean, I've got pickleball because Rick and I have been kind of moving forward with that. Why don't I keep you in the loop on that as well? Josh, as you talked to sort of a project manager type capacity for all, because of
Yeah.
your experience with those folks. And I'll keep you floating, and I'll focus right now on my end on pickleball and then also fundraising. Those are the two areas that I
Okay.
want to drill down. When I spoke to Dan and to Deb, they both said, put us where need be. And I'm going to ask Dan's help in doing communications. And I'm going to ask Deb probably to help more on the fundraising side with me, along with Chris Romlin, because I think Chris has some of the right contacts we need, although he may not have the time to be able to kind of dig into it. I think he knows the right people, having worked on projects like this as well before. So I think in looking through our list, kind of have checked off all the boxes in here. Cool. All right. So what's next, I guess, is the question here. So we're going to notify the vendors about what our choice is, and then we're going to start to drill into the specific versions of what we want for a design in particular, which I think will involve the committee and potentially at a certain point going back out to the town. Josh, my understanding is in other projects that you've worked on in this type of space, that's usually the way this works out, right?
You can, we can, I mean, you can go either way. We've already asked for feedback, so we kind of have a baseline to base the design off of. So, I mean, whether we choose to come up with two designs and have the town vote on it, or we just kind of narrow it down to a final design and get, present it to the town, not necessarily ask for them to pick one over another. I mean, it just depends on how much time we have and want to waste, and so we might not have a ton of time to do that whole process again. I'm not certain it's necessary, but it's definitely something that can happen. The other thing to keep in mind is that we could present the final concept, I guess, back to the town and ask for feedback. But I'm not sure any of it's really necessary at this point. I guess one question I would have is, do we have any direction from the DEM on extension of the timeline for the grant because of the whole COVID, delays, I guess?
It's a 3-year grant, so I'm not sure how much extension you need.
Our timeline is
I would,
shorter,
yeah.
but the grant itself is 3 years, but the timeline for like when we put it together, the plan was to try and do stuff in a much shorter timeline. My kind of take on this is that I would like to see if there is the capability of getting the pickleball part done in 2020, with the idea that the other pieces we would look to break ground on in the spring next year, and then see how much time we can complete them. So
Okay.
that would be
Just
my
so you know,
intent.
the grant started July 1st.
So we've got time.
Stu, the only thing I would like to add, kind of echoing Josh a little bit, is if there's a way to get down there, even if it's with the vendor, and start reviewing the current layout, maybe at least prep as much as we can on the groundwork. So that way, when it comes time to prep the ground and get this thing installed, there's no time wasted there. I mean, in an ideal world, it would be great if that thing were done in 2 months, but obviously that's not going to happen. So.
Any other thoughts? Well, and so the one piece that I know that we're going to have to do in this is a site survey on it. And I think having the conversation with the vendor will help. We've kind of danced around that a little bit without being able to proceed, but now that we've locked down who's going to do the project for us, we can have that conversation with them about how do we want to do it. And so I think, Josh, you and I have talked about this. Rick, you and I have talked about this. We're going to have to do that. So whether that's a matter of us assigning some funds to complete that part of the project, or we work through the vendor, one way or another, it sounds like it's going to have to happen. Right? Yeah.
I think it would make the most sense. Yeah.
All right, so sequence of events on this is we talk to the vendor tomorrow, start establishing a timeline with them to review the facility and the footprint, figure out what we're going to need from there, and then once we have that determined, I think that's where like Adam, you and Dave and Josh come in terms of building it out. While we're doing that, and as soon as we know what's needed for the site, we can start to get into some of the stuff Jen has talked about before, which is knowing exactly like what the paver layout's going to be, knowing what pieces we can put advertising or not advertising, wrong word, recognitions on, knowing what we need to ask the town council to approve us getting for signage in places, like all that stuff. We can get into the details of being able to raise money for specific items potentially. I will say, and I think Adam, you raised it with me, is that there were some elements of the comp and design that I would like to see them change. And that gets back to like, let's go through it. I personally am a big fan of getting more input from the town than less, because this is what it's going to be. And I would almost advocate for having two final but very similar designs that get put out. They sit there for a week for feedback, and it's whatever the town votes on is what we go with. We don't do tweaks really beyond that. Because we already have the survey data, right?
Yeah.
I agree with Josh. I think we have all that we're going to get from the town. I more or less kind of think it's up to us to make that decision now at this point. I mean, if we have the time to put it out there, we're not wasting time, and we could be doing other stuff by letting the town have a look at what we come up with, and that's fine. But if it's a matter of eating up clock just to get the town to look at a design that, you know, they've pretty much already agreed on, and I don't know if it's the best use of time.
Yeah, I think my take on it would be that the town gave us the rundown on the specific elements that they want, and comp and put them in there. But for example,
Yeah.
like the printing that they do on top of some of the fixtures, like, is that something that we want to include or not? And what we can do is, as we go forward, decide based on us looking at that feedback and our own involvement in this, hey, do we want to put it out again after we've reviewed it? I know that from my perspective, one of the things that I liked about Compan was, you know, zip lines do take up a lot of space, but I feel like that's a big element that I would love to see included. So, you know, do we talk to them about placement and stuff like that? But we're getting kind of, I mean, some of this is nuanced stuff. I think we're in a better spot than we were before. And we can get the ball rolling once we work with them.
Stu,
Yes.
now that you've made a selection, I'm assuming they're gonna probably propose a contract that needs to go back to our solicitor to take a look at before we engage with any formality of the contract.
Yep. Understood.
So you guys should review it to make sure you're getting what it is that you want in it to start with, but before we sign it, I just want him to take a look at it before we engage, all right?
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Cool. What else? What am I missing, folks?
Is the old playground equipment still there? Has that been cleared out yet?
Some of it.
Most of it.
Most of it. There is still a little bit left. So we should probably begin removing the rest of it. And I'm assuming we're going to have to pull all the sand that's out of there too, get everything out. So,
And all the smaller equipment is still installed in the south end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, by the tennis courts it is.
Yeah.
okay. So Rick, how would you like us to approach the removal of and the cleaning of the surface there?
Whenever I get to go ahead, we can, plan to remove the little bit of playground equipment in the northeast, and then of course the playground equipment on the south end. As soon as I, just send an email or something like that, that's got the blessing of the town to start removing that. And also, depending on what they will need, there's probably still footings, even where the jungle gym used to be in the northeast. So whether or not the vendor is going to want the whole thing cleared out to X depth, then we would want to know that. Otherwise, if they only need footings in certain areas, then we can excavate for that. But to my knowledge, there's still some footings buried in the sand.
Hey, Rick, what are we doing with the old equipment?
I don't know, Adam. It's whatever DPW is directed to do, that's what we will.
Oh, all right. Who are you waiting for direction from on the old equipment?
Well,
Me.
Oh,
to my knowledge, nobody is actually given the blessing to taking out the old equipment.
okay. Stu, are we gonna get a trailer from DPW down there to load up with all that stuff? I'm guessing. We're not just throwing it all in the back of a dump truck.
Yeah,
Or
what's
maybe
interesting- no,
are we gonna palletize it or something? Are we gonna try to resell it? Are we storing it?
I don't know. The only thing that's, yeah, I really have no idea. The only thing that I see down there that might be interesting to look at, trying to repurpose as kind of connecting new with old, is over by the tennis courts. There's that car that's been there forever.
Yeah.
And, I could see that being a really cool piece that's added in with like a welcome to town farm sign built on the side of it. So I'd like to try and find a way to repurpose that. The rest of it, I don't have any thoughts or suggestions on what we should do with it. I mean, Chris, Rick, Adam, anybody, what, I mean, where should this stuff go?
I like the car. It's Jen. I like the car idea. I was even thinking, asking a local landscape designer or architect to maybe fill it with like some kind of shrubbery, make it part of the landscape.
Mhm.
Some kind of seasonal flowers or something in it I think it would look really interesting. And I think it's nostalgic. It's almost like the zip line.
Mhm.
To chime in on that, I think another option would be to maybe have it powder coated. And then maybe incorporate the sign if we went that route. But those are both, I like that, Jen. And, again, powder coating it, and using it for a sign is great too.
Yep.
Just one other thing to chime in on real quick. Those two remaining pieces that are somewhat decent, can we sell them for fundraising? Someone might want them.
Yeah, no,
Where are we talking about the what do you have, this seesaws and the little merry-go-round?
Not that side, although that would be nice to not get rid of and eventually find something to do with. Yeah, I know it's
And
old.
swing
but
set, right? We have a swing
no.
set over there.
like the
where
little horse.
where the wooden stuff is now. There's like a
Yeah,
little,
what's
tower.
over there now? Like a wooden fire truck is left behind, and
there's
what
a
else?
car and a little tower.
The car. Okay.
Hey, you never know. The Moose Cafe might want to buy it and put it on their land over there.
Well, sorry, I just have this mental image of the Tiverton version of Burning Man. Sorry. So here would be my thought. Rick, you asked for approval for what to do with it. I would say, let's keep the car. We're going to pull those pieces out and we're going to have to figure out something to do with them. I don't have any thoughts on the wood as much as the metal, because I think the metal at least has, even if you repurpose it, it has some salvage value to it. The wood, I don't know of an interest. I don't even know who I would ask. So Dave, if you want to kind of poke around and see if somebody wants to take that and be interested in moving it, we can. I do think that with the car, we've had conversations with the Arts Council before, and that might be a place for them to talk about looking at that. And I love the idea, Jen, of having it have some sort of like living elements within it. I think that's a capstone kind of deal on what we're doing here. So we'll have to, again, find a place for that to live in the meantime. But things like the swings and those, they're going to have to come out no matter what. So what I would say for now, Rick, is don't do anything yet till we're able to move forward and have guidance on the questions you asked. And then once we have that, we'll come up in the process with a plan for removing, disposing, selling, repurposing any of the content we have there.
One of the points I'd like to make, it complicates things, but it's the way things work in municipalities. I'm sure the town areas are the same as DPW. DPW can't get rid of any salvage vehicles without getting permission. We have to log in all the scrap that we get and turn those funds into the town. So I'm guessing the recreation areas are the same thing. And I don't want anybody to get, on the wrong side of things by somebody takes them as a donation and somebody else complains that the town could have gotten money for those items. Or even if they were repurposed somewhere else in the town, they would probably have to get an okay since they're being moved from the trust saying that there's still acceptable condition for playground equipment. So there are a few complications in record keeping that would have to be done.
That all makes sense. I don't foresee them being repurposed as playground equipment again. I mean, I look at that car thing, and like we talked about, it would be something that would stay at Town Farm and serve a purpose as a sign.
Can we just, can we maybe put something together, stating, like, we'll have all the equipment in a big heap in the north parking lot one weekend, and if people want to come and grab it, or I don't think we should put a price on it, but if anybody wants it, they can come and take it, and if not, off to the dump.
No, we can't do that until we get permission to surplus it.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We need permission to surplus it first.
Oh.
There's a
Okay.
process for it. We just can't give it away because somebody's gonna get accused of giving it to their friend. It is what it is. There's a
Even if you do a flyer that goes out to the whole town.
I'm gonna have to look up the process on it, but there is a procedure on how to do it. No different than
Understood.
the ancient police cars or everything else that we get rid of. There's, we
I
usually
didn't know it was all
for
lumped in the
them,
same
but there is a
category.
process you
Okay.
have to follow.
All right.
Is
So
the
Chris-
old slide still behind DPW too?
Probably.
Where it is, the original slide too?
If you
Sure, it's
mean
stored somewhere.
the tubular one or another
Yeah.
kind?
The tubular one, yeah.
Yeah, that's considered trash, but if somebody, that still happens to be a DPW.
I mean, can it all be considered trash, and then don't you get to circumvent the giveaway process?
So let me find out first.
Okay.
So Adam, I love your idea of just pull it all out and then find people that want it, but I also get Chris's point. So let's figure out what we can do and then figure out how to make it happen and kind of go from there.
But there shouldn't be any issue of pulling it out right now, even if we have to store it somewhere. So if your vendor wants to give you dimensions and depths and things that you need to do to get the area prepped, I mean, we can, extract all that stuff when Rick's available and get it ready for the next stage. So,
Awesome. All right. What else? All right.
Are there any drainage issues that we are considering now that we have kind of like a site plan and we've moved ahead a little bit now? Are we addressing any of those drainage issues that we're going to run into in the middle of that playground? Or is it just a matter of we're just going to bring in a little more fill and grade it a little differently and leave the infrastructure there the way it is?
Josh,
I'm
you there?
sorry, I'm talking about the north end right now, not so much the south end.
Josh, do you have any thoughts? Yeah.
So I know we had talked about getting a survey done and finding out about existing utilities or potential under drains. I'm not certain that any are there, but we can potentially resolve any future grading or drainage issues with some grading revisions. But I still think we need to consider a full survey for the site. I don't know if that's still on the table, if it's something we're considering, but it's definitely something that should be thought of part of the process.
I think it has to be. Dave, you had a comment.
Yeah, just along those lines, I know early on, when we were actually able to meet in person, we talked a lot about the drainage. And I believe I mentioned that Little League wise, we actually found plans in the old garage, but it only deals with the softball field and the soccer field. I don't believe our plans go down as far as the playground area. But I don't know if Rick was able to find anything from the original work that was done there, or if these plans that we have, which I want to say are like 89, 90, are just unique to that side of the field.
Yeah, DPW did not find plans. We did, this was quite a while ago, talk to the town maintenance, as far as landscaping goes, Bill McGee. And basically they don't know where exactly, but there are drains running, sub-drains running east-west in what is used as the soccer practice fields between Daniels Field and Sylvia Field. But other than that, there's no records of the drainage, underground electric, etc.
Right, and that's the one that we have the schematic for, so that drain system there.
We should probably have dig
They-
safe too.
Dave, do you have access to those? Any way you can send me some screenshots of them, or I can take a look at them?
My softball director has them now because that building that they were in is about to fall down, so we saved them. I will get them from him and I will get them to you.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so my intent after this meeting is to send out a recap with a breakdown of where each of our responsibilities are fitting. We need to figure out, Chris, if you can take a look at when we pull the stuff out, what your thoughts are and what we should do with it. I'll send an email right after this meeting off to the folks from Compan to let them know that we're excited to work with them and move forward. And Josh, if you and I can work on just ensuring that we get a contract that matches up with what our initial requests to them were. From that point, I'll bring it back, and Chris, I'll give it to you to go to the solicitor for
Okay.
review. In appropriate their update to the council. Can do it by have it also get in front of you posted. And yeah, hey guys, we picked under big day, making progress. So thank you all for helping us get to this point. Really looking forward to the day we break ground. When we go to do that, I'd love to, and after everything's cleaned up, I think we need to figure out a way to make the town aware of it. I think this is where we get into the marketing and the optics of it. And so I'll ask all of you guys to think about how else can we keep people in town engaged and involved. That's going to be really important, not just from a fundraising standpoint, but this is Tiverton's playground. So
I think, sorry, Stu.
go.
And related to what you're saying right now, I've come across a lot of people who think this playground is going to be done like next spring or at the end of this summer. So I think that might need to be cleared up. I mean, almost everybody I've talked to who's not involved, who hasn't been, involved in this or really paying attention is under the assumption that this is going to be done, by this fall. I just think it might be a good idea to clear that up somehow.
Yeah, and you and I talked about before. I think that's a result of some folks that were involved with this process prior to this committee. So it's a very good point, Adam. But what I'd like to do is once we have a more definitive timetable on things, we'll put up a sign at a town farm and people can take a look at, and we'll share it and we'll get more active on the Facebook page and the website. So yeah, it's a good call.
So between us, what are we looking at for a completion time frame, realistically?
Until we're able to really go a step further and also record it, and get it, I think a couple of steps before an absolute answer. But as I said sort of earlier on, my hope is to try and get pickleball done this fall and then turn our attention to the playground for spring. Because I also have, like a lot of you, I have 2 small kids at home that keep asking me like, hey, when is this going to be done? So
Yeah.
cool.
Adam just can't wait to go down the slide.
I'm looking forward to the zip line, Dave.
Yeah, zip line.
That's what I was thinking. He's waiting to race on the zip line.
Yeah. Else that we adjourn for.
I think he's
So
freezing.
with that, adjourn.
Stu, you're breaking up, but Catherine, I think
Stu.
made a motion. I'll second it.
Wait, Stu, I can't hear you.
Favor.
What are we doing?
Adjourning.
Oh, we're adjourning the meeting? Okay.
All right.
Motion.
Yep. I made a motion to adjourn, Dave second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.